Yo, what's up, everybody? We're looking a little Elestrals news today, a little bit different. They're working on clarifying some terms for Elestrals that might cause three different erratas for set one cards going into set two. And no one likes erratas on cards. We want to make sure our cards are functionally the same versus if I have one printing versus another printing. But there's a little bit of confusion, mostly to do with one card, which we'll get to in a little bit, that negated versus maybe silenced or suppressed is a little bit of an issue. So to summarize what this tweet thread is about is that we have cards like Vertaqua, Gorgon's Gaze, and Krakid that all negate effects on Elestrals, but doesn't stop them from being activated, if that makes sense. So currently, we use the term negate. So if I pull up Vertaqua here, when it battles a defense position Elestral, you can negate the Elestral's effect and destroy it. Now, negate is what they want negate to mean is to remove an ability from the chain or stop an ability from resolving on the chain. And with this instance, this is designed in a way to say, well, if I'm attacking something in defense position, it doesn't have an ability. Or if its ability is activating, it negates it right away. Which is different than what the card is designed or what they want the design to be. They want the design for Vertaqua to basically say the ability doesn't activate at all. We're not countering the ability, we're just removing the ability from happening. Or removing the ability for the ability to trigger, in a sense, which is a functionally different, but maybe a little nuanced and pedantic. But negating something is not the same as stopping it from happening or being able to trigger at all. And they want to make sure that Vertaqua is stopping things from triggering. And maybe in the future we get a card that says if you negate something, you draw a card, right? This will allow you to attack something in defense. It's negating something, right? Or is it? That gets confusing. So they want to make this something like suppression, where if you suppress an Elestral's effect, so you're removing the Elestral's effect until the end of turn or the end of battle with this card, so that it can't even trigger to begin with. Which, again, for Vertaqua, functionally, it does the same thing in the game, but it causes a little bit of nuance change. If we look at something like Krakid, similar situation. If we're negating the effect, is the effect triggering and then just being taken off the chain right away? That's not what the card's supposed to do. Krakid's trying to say just you can't start using the ability in the begin with, or at least that seems to be the sentiment that they're trying to get at. So again, if we get a card that lets us get benefits from negating and countering stuff, does this just negate effects? Does the opponent's Jotaya still trigger, but it instantly gets removed off the chain from Krakid? It's not supposed to. Krakid just is designed to say, hey, you can't attack and your abilities aren't supposed to activate, but negated is the key word there. So generally, it's saying suppress or silence versus negated. It would be fine. You just need to find the term for that. The confusing part is Gorgon's Gaze. And this card, if you know, has been a mess of rules interactions for the longest time. So it would instead be target Elestral until end of phase, Elestral's effect is suppressed, which means the effect couldn't activate. Now, we've had so many versions of Gorgon's Gaze over playtesting of set 1, where it's like, we have had times where it's like if you use Boombat's ability and you Gorgon's Gaze the Boombat while trying to use its ability, it would keep its spirit and stay in play. Currently, as worded, as rules work, is if I try to say use a Boombat and disenchant it, and my Boombat gets Gorgon Gazed, I lose the Boombat and its ability doesn't activate. Or its ability is negated, it doesn't get to be used. Which isn't necessarily how Gorgon's Gaze is designed. So Gorgon's Gaze is supposed to stop things, not necessarily stop things from happening, I should say. Not necessarily negate them or let them happen and stop them mid kind of, roll. Like Gorgon's Gaze is supposed to be something you use proactive or preemptively to stop something, and it's negating abilities right now, which is not quite what it was supposed to do. So if we change it from negated to suppress, it does change some nuance there, and it would be a little bit worse. But originally, that's kind of how the card worked. Like the card getting the negated terminology kind of pumped Gorgon's Gaze's power level up a little bit higher than it was, and it's already a very good versatile toolbox. Not even, it's a one card toolbox. It's a great card. Use it. But yeah, it's something that needs some clarification. The card on its own just needs some rules clarification, I think, and changing from negated to suppressed, I think, kind of gives you a step to get there. Now, the next big kind of stretch here is if we're eroding cards in set 1 into set 2, that's kind of frustrating because now we already have our set 1 or Kickstarter set cards that are going to be incorrect. But thankfully, these erratas are very minor. And I do want to kind of throw in a little bit of an example from recent history in Magic the Gathering. We had the card Consider, I believe it's called, which is a 1-cost blue card that says you can look at the top card of your library. You can either put it into your graveyard or draw it to your hand, which is effectively Surveil 1. And recently they have changed the card text to just be surveilling. Like it's surveilling, but they didn't want to put surveil on the card because surveilling was a mechanic that they haven't used for a few sets. They didn't want to confuse players. But now they said, you know what? Actually, yeah, it's Surveil 1. So it's functionally the same, but they just condense the text down in a sense. So it's kind of like that, where the cards, effectively, they're doing the same thing, except Gorgon is slightly different. But now it's a little bit more condensed and easier to read. Whether that effect is suppressed or silenced remains to be seen. Now, I don't really like the word silenced for this because now we've seen silenced in like Hearthstone and stuff, which is removing abilities. It's a little bit more of an RPG term, and in role-playing games, MMOs, stuff like that, silence generally means that you cannot cast spells. And our normal way of playing cards in the game is casting our Elestrals. We're normal casting. We're casting our runes. And I think you have some weight with the word silence coming from RPGs and stuff. So if you're silencing cards, you're silencing casting. There might be a little bit of confusion with the word silence. I think suppress is honestly the best word in this situation. You're suppressing abilities, so you're stopping abilities from ever activating. Or even like the term voided or void could be potential, but I think suppressed has a little bit more of a linguistic, like less of a leap to go through than void. So I do like suppressed. I don't mind the erratas. And I believe if they do errata these cards, they plan on making the erratas pretty reasonably available, which would be great for Gorgon's Gaze because Gorgon's Gaze is currently just a starter deck fire exclusive card. So if they reprinted a common or uncommon in a future set with the errata text to kind of make up for it, by all means, I would be happy to see more cards coming out of the starter decks and into the main sets. So that's my opinion on the topic. I'd love to know what you guys think. Erratas, personally, I don't like, but there are reasons to errata, whether that's rules clarification, and it's not like we're errating the cards to be functionally different. They're just being errata to explain what they are supposed to do better, and what we already do with them and how they play is exactly the same post errata, minus a minor situations with Gorgon Gaze, which is already a Rules Nightmares card, so it just kind of maybe helps fix Gorgon's Gaze's rules a little bit, but we'll see. That's the end of this video. I just want to go over that quick and curious what you guys think. Let me know down below. Yeah, I'll see you guys next video. Peace.